Hi and welcome back to Dreaming in Fibre. I'm Sarah, your host. So it's March here in the sunny land of Devon. Well, I say sunny land of Devon, it's currently chucking it down outside, hence the slightly yellow lighting. So I apologise if the lighting does affect our recording today, but it's kind of the best I can do at the moment, so bear with me. I also want to kind of apologise for wearing my baggy old clothes. I'm in the middle of production, which you can kind of see going on behind me. I am processing fleece. I'm back to dyeing tops, fleece, yarn, silks. I'm also in the middle of washing some fleece and things like that. So yeah, kind of wearing my old clothes so that I don't damage any nice new ones that I want to wear out and about. Yeah, so I've also got dyer's hand syndrome. I think you could probably see that. My fingers yesterday were bright blue, just bright blue. It doesn't seem to matter how thick the gloves are or how new the gloves are you put on when you're dyeing. For some reason, and it's always this hand as well, and it's probably, I don't know, probably because I'm right-handed and I wear those gloves through quicker, but I always end up with dyer's hands, so I've washed it off as best I can, but apologies for extreme close-ups with messy fingers. So let's get started. Since we spoke last time in February, I have made some changes to how the show notes are written. I used to use a company called podbean.com, and great company for publishing audio podcasts, but when it comes to video podcasts, I found that certainly from my point of view, trying to upload video episodes is just becoming impossible. I think if I had a pro account, I probably would have extra storage space and probably little perks behind the scenes that would benefit me somehow. But because I'm doing this from my own pocket and I'm using it as advertising for my business, and I work from my spare room at home, I really don't have the cash to fund, another site with, to sort of get this podcast out there. So I want to do it in the most reasonably priced way possible. Because I'm advertising my business, I don't want to go ahead and ask for donations from people. If I was doing this as a personal podcast, with some sort of informational sort of ethos behind it, whether it be knitting related or spinning related, then I might have a donate button on my website for the podcast, and obviously I wouldn't have any links to my business, but I'm doing this purely as a business venture, as part of helping to spread the word of SarasTextureCraft.com, which is my website. So I'm trying to keep costs down to a minimum, to what I can afford within my advertising budget for the business. So podbean.com for me is no more. You will, if you have subscribed there or visited there in the past to listen to the podcasts or to view the first video episode, which was last month, you will still find those episodes up there, and they will still be linked through to iTunes, so you can still get hold of those. But from now on, the show notes will be on a site called dreaminginfibre.blogspot.com. And Dreaming in Fibre, the word fibre is written in the English way, which is Fibre, instead of the American term, which has an ending ER. So bear that in mind. The reason why I've moved to there is because I'm uploading the video to YouTube and to Blip TV, so I can host the show notes on Blogspot, and I can also link the video directly without having to worry about storage space and things like that. So it just makes it a little bit easier from my point of view in terms of getting the podcast out to you and bringing you the show notes in a way that is easiest and quickest. But also I'm hoping that it'll be better for you, because on that site there will be several ways where you'll be able to subscribe to view the podcast from now on. You can either RSS feed the podcast updates to your either to your desktop facilities or to your mobile applications, and you can also choose to follow me on YouTube and get updates that way, or again on Blip TV and get updates that way. So I'm hoping that will be a much easier way of getting the podcast out to you. So do remember that it's dreaminginfibre.blogspot.com, and I'm hoping during the editing there'll be a line of text underneath me here that gives you that link. And as I say, that will be from now on where you'll be able to find all the show notes. It'll also be the place where I recommend other podcasts that I listen to. And I want to do a segment next month on podcasts that I listen to, and you know, give you a few recommendations if you're looking for something new to watch. Okay, so that done. What else do I need to say? I think that's it really for the starting sort of informational section of the podcast. So I guess we probably should take a look at some of the things that I've been working on. Now, if you remember from the last podcast, I had a severe case of startitis where I had a ton of stuff either on the needles or in progress. And this month I kind of still have got a lot on the go, and I've got some new things on the go. I've also finished some things which we'll get to in a minute, but there's not a huge amount of progress on all of the projects that I spoke to you about last time, and that's purely because production has started up again. So in the evenings I'm either too pooped to pick up anything that's more, you know, sort of involved, so I've picked at doing the easier stuff, or I have been working late, particularly where I've had to rinse out dyes and things, so not a great deal of movement on that. So my little project book, the fairy that I showed you last time, the needle felted fairy, that's still as it was when you saw it. Haven't had a chance to work on that. And again, the same thing with the secret project and the weaving project as well. I'm also still to hand dye up some yarn for some other projects that I spoke about. But what I did finish from our conversations was I think last time I had to weave in the ends of the cushion cover I was making. And here it is. It's huge, it is huge. But remember, this is actually to cover a memory foam pillow. You can see there that I've used ribbon to hold the pop studs better as I do that on the closing. It fits rather well actually on the memory foam cushion. The one thing I didn't really anticipate, which I probably should have thought about, but this is the problem when you start a project at, you know, sort of 10 o'clock at night, is that actually as we use the memory foam pillow, the it tends to sort of squash up in places. So unless you keep manoeuvring the pillow and sort of fluffing it, if you like, any cushion cover that you have to go on it will tend to look a bit baggier than it should do by the end of, say, a day of using the cushion. So I'm not sure what to do, whether to pop this in the washing machine. It is 100% wool, so I could felt it slightly. My only issue with that is that I don't have a top loader, I have a front loading washing machine, and so it will be more difficult to stop and assess the felting process as I'm working on that. So I don't know, I'm still going to toy with that idea. This is fine for the moment, it does the job, but we'll see what I think about that in, say, a month or 2 months' time. I have started a second cushion cover because I have a second memory pillow that, you know, we're no longer using in the bedroom just because I found them just too hard to sleep on. And so I started the second one purely because Darren keeps stealing this one. So rather than it being my wonderful spinning cushion that supports my back as I'm at the spinning wheel, it's become his gaming cushion, which is quite upsetting really, because it means I don't get the full use of it when I'm at the wheel all the time. But at least it's being used, right? I mean, after all those hours of work, at least it's being used. So I'm kind of in the process of getting the second cushion done. I'm in absolutely no rush for it. It's one of those mindless knits that I'll pick up every now and again, do just a couple of rows on it. And yeah, I'm going to show you that when it's finished. I've already made the stitch count smaller on each row. So I'm hoping that I will be able to combat the sort of bagginess on the pillow after wear as we go on. Okay, what else did I show last week? I think that was it. I think that was all that I had sort of in progress, wasn't it, when we last spoke? You'll have to let me know. Leave me a comment if I've missed something, you want to see an update on it. If I haven't shown it, it's probably because there isn't an update on it. So what have I started that's new? Well, do you remember I showed you I got hooked on crochet and I did the crochet case? Well, I did my second project. I started off by downloading a free pattern on Ravelry, which was for a pair of sort of espadrille styled crochet slippers, and I took that over to my mum's, picked out yarn and the needle I needed to use, and she's been teaching me how to crochet. I just wanted to make sure that I was following things correctly, and so I came home to start that off, and I just couldn't do it. I think it was slightly too advanced for me. I think the fact that I had literally only done a double crochet and a couple of circular shapes had meant that really anything more advanced than that was just too far beyond any kind of realm of comprehension at that point. So I thought, well, okay, I still want a crochet pair of slippers. I didn't have the time at that point. I think again it was probably 9:30 in the evening when I actually sat down to start them. So I thought, well, I'm not going to get onto Ravelry tonight, so I will just try and come up with something off the cuff and concentrate on what I do know, which is double crochet. So I created these, and they basically are 3 rectangles. And with a little bit of sewing here and there, I've made them into a sort of bootlet shape, and they cross over at the front, and they look a little bit more sexy on than they do off. But yeah, I mean, they do the job. They were very easy to make. They're nice and warm. They actually double up as a really nice pair of bed socks. And I showed these on my blog, on my main blog, which is craftsoftexture.blogspot.com, and I have had a few people actually who've contacted me since then and said, well, have you got a pattern for these? And the truth was, I haven't, because I just made them up. So I think what I might do is I'm going to make a second pair. I did note down the stitches and rows and how I put this first pair together, so I'm going to use the second pair as a bit of a test knit to see whether I can repeat and get the same results, and B, whether I need to make any changes for going up a size in shoe, which I probably will, but at the moment I don't know how that works. So getting a pattern out at the moment, I could only get out for a size UK 5 foot, because that's my size. I have no comprehension of how this should look graded up to, say, a size 6, size 7, or down to a size 4 or size 3. So I think what I need to do is I need to practice a bit before I get a pattern out. But yeah, I mean essentially they are 3 rectangles, one for the base and 2 for the top. They start from the heel and go round and come over as sewn into the toe of the foot. And then I've just sewn them up the side just so that they fit snugly on the top of the foot without becoming too tight by sealing them into the seam of the sole. So yeah, they work fine for me, they fit fine, they're nice and warm. I think what I also might try is to try and get some slipper grip. I don't know if you're familiar with the Totsies socks, and they had sort of gelled plastic sort of painted in patterns or designs on the base of slipper socks, and I thought it might be quite nice to have a go and see if I can place that maybe on these ridge lines of the crochet, to see if that helps improve grip, because I've noticed, I mean, I made these with cheap acrylic just purely because I didn't want to waste good wool when I was just playing and just practicing. And so they're quite slip-slidey on the floor, so I wouldn't like to release a pattern without suggesting that you get slipper grip, if that's what I think you should really be doing. Okay, so that's that. Yay, crochet slippers! I then started a shawl. On my Ravelry page, and I'm SarasTextureCraft on Ravelry, you'll see that I started an Eyelet shawl, and I haven't got finished pictures up yet because it's not entirely finished. Now I want to say before I show you this that the idea of the shawl is that it's supposed to be a triangle with just simple eyelets on it. And it looks like it couldn't be an easier pattern to follow, and it probably isn't. It's probably my brain again at, you know, God knows what o'clock in the evening, picking up and starting to work on a pattern. But I started it and it's not quite turned out as it should do, but there's a rescue plan. Okay, so I'll just show you this to start with. You can probably see my mistake already. But yeah, this is the Eyelet pattern, and I've used for this my own hand-dyed yarn, and you can find this in my shop as a double knit weight, a DK weight in the hand-dyed colour Berry, and that's actually come out really nicely on the knit because you've got all sorts of pooling, which is lovely. I'll show you a bit in the centre, and you can guess my mistake as I show you this, but yeah, you can see some really nice pooling effects, and I've really enjoyed using it. It's soft, it's snuggly, and I think it helps to show off that Eyelet pattern quite well. And I haven't blocked this, obviously, but I quite like the texture you get from not blocking it, those kind of bumps in between the eyelets that you get from the knit sort of whooshing up, if you like. And that's fine. I think if it had come out in the perfect triangular shape, I'd be fine with that. I probably wouldn't bother to block it, but again, if I did block it, that would be fine too. But as you can see, this is what happened. It's gone from the triangle it's supposed to be to being what can only be described as a circular shawl. And this is due to just too many increases. So I've got this ruffle effect on the end. Oh, sorry, I haven't weaved in my ends, so I've got a little ball of yarn hanging off the end of that. And I made this using one skein of my DK. So let's put that on. So as you can see, it's not really a shawl, is it? It's not a shawlette. It's a Elizabethan ruff, which is fine if that was the look I was going for, but you know, it's not. And I guess it would be fine if I had a small child as well, because a small child in a cute ruffle capelet type thing would look gorgeous. but I'm not a small child, and nor do I desire the ruffle effect in my shawlette. So I have two options. I could either rip the whole thing out and start again. Now, with the pattern, I have read it and read it and read it, and I am putting my yarn overs in the right place, and I'm picking them up in the right place, and I seem to be increasing and decreasing in the right place. So I don't understand what I've done. I really don't understand how I've managed to increase quite as much as I have. Yeah, I just don't understand. Which is a bit worrying, really. But, yeah, so I mean, I could either go back, I could relook at the pattern and I could say, actually, I don't need eyelets as frequently. And it's really with the eyelet row that I'm getting the major increases. So what I could do is I could re-knit it with much more spacing between the eyelets. And again, that would be fine. It would be fine with the yarn because I like the way the colour is pooling, so that would work. Or I could re-look at how many eyelets there are on each row and lessen that, you know, lessen the increases as much and work on a triangular shape. And I did notice actually as I was knitting this up that it was not going to be a triangle shape, and I kept saying to Darren, this is not right, it's just not right, and I kept going back to the pattern and it was right. I was doing everything that I was supposed to be doing. And there are lots of other projects that have been made from the same pattern, but most of them don't seem to be following the pattern exactly. They seem to have all adapted, so I don't know whether that's something that's been realised. I can't see anything in notes particularly that mentions that, or whether I just am doing something so majorly and fundamentally stupid that I just am not getting it, I'm not reading it right. Anyway, so as I say, my option is either to rip it back and start again, or I could hold on to it and use it for something else. And you say, well, if you don't like ruffles and stuff, why are you holding on to it? Just rip it back. And let me explain. I have the Devon County show coming up, which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, and I have a stall there. And so as part of that stall, normally what I do on my show stalls is I tend to demo, so when you come across me, I'm not just standing there saying buy this, buy that. I normally try and do something that tries to engage passers-by, so I'm either showing you needle felting techniques or spinning on a spindle, or sometimes I'm knitting a sample of something that I have on the stall. I try and always have a project on the go, and what I wanted this time for the Devon County show was to do some needle felting. And so I kind of felt that to help engage people further in the concept of taking up needle felting as a craft, and therefore buying lots of the lovely kits I'll have on the stall, that I might have something that's finished, something that's quite big, that maybe incorporates needle felting in it, but also incorporates other elements of felting, whether it be just standard wet felting or Nuno felting, also maybe some spinning and some knitting and crochet too. And so, my idea is still a work in progress at the moment, but I actually want to make a sort of arty outfit, if you like, and it will go on a dummy that I have. And so I thought this might actually be quite nice to incorporate into that outfit some way, somehow. There you go. Mad scientist art plans at all going on in my head. So I don't know whether that will work or not, and as I say, I haven't really got anything to show you at the moment, so it might be a case of let me think about that and come back to you. So I'm going to keep that as it is. I'm not going to cut anything, weave any ends. I'm going to keep it as it is and see how we go and see how that relates to this larger project that I have in mind. If I can't use it for that larger project I have in mind, I will rip it back and start again with the shawl. So, having spent, well, it took me a few evenings to get that done really, because there was nothing to it. I was quite disappointed not to have anything to wear at the end of it. So I looked through my stash and I found some yarn, and I have started another shawlette. I am using for this Artisano 4-ply 100% alpaca, and this is colour number 0785, which I think might be called Bolivia, and they recommend needle size 2.75 to 3.25mm, and you get 200 yards for that. So that's that, and that's the colour. It's a beautiful sort of greeny teal colour, and it's so soft, and it's just such a rich colour as well. I thought that would make a really nice little shawlette, because I want something to wear at the shows that I can say, yeah, I made that, to show that I can do maybe more than just spin. So this is my shawl so far. Now bear in mind, I've said to you already that I do not follow patterns. I can't be bothered, and I guess because I'm not so I'm not such a technical knitter, that actually the fussing around with sort of lacy patterns and things like that, I just can't be doing with when I come to sit down and actually work on patterns, normally about 9 o'clock at night. So this is something I've kind of made up, and I've increased and decreased all over the place to create eyelet patterns, but also to give me a different finish shape. And this, I mean, you can't see it very well because it's all on one needle, but actually it's increasing quite nicely now, and it goes from a point and increases slowly, but comes up in a sort of very shaped way. Don't know if you can see that. So it almost looks a bit like an ivy leaf, which I quite like. And so we have lots of eyelet patterns going up, and they're kind of random, so you get a bit of zigzagging as I increase the stitches. That's quite nice, that bit there. And it gives me a bit of a shaping around the edge. In the centre I have again used eyelet patterns around like what I call the spine of the shawl, that sort of centre line. So again, increasing and decreasing in different ways. Now this is, if you're a lover of symmetry, this is not a symmetric shawl. What I've done to one side I haven't necessarily done to the other. I've got the same stitch count, so in terms of shaping it should be very similar, but the stitch patterning is slightly different, and that's okay for me, because when I'm not wearing it actually as a little shawlette to cover my shoulders, I'll probably ruche it up and wear it as a neck scarf. So essentially probably what you'll just see is difference in stitching between the stockinette and the sort of eyelet pattern. So again, that's fine for me, and I'm not necessarily a lover of symmetry. I like the idea of texture and patterning across the whole thing, so I don't mind if one side looks slightly different to the other. And again, as I say, I'm making this up, it's all completely off the cuff. So I'm not expecting it to be perfect, but that's fine. Imperfection is fine. I can always, if I really want, I can later embellish onto this with beads and things like that. So I'm fine with the way it's working out. In fact, I'm loving it. And I'm using my new stitch markers. Yay! Now, I've been coveting stitch markers like crazy on Etsy, and I just realised actually at the weekend that, you know, I have so many beads in my stash, and I have findings and things like that, that actually I'd be stupid just to go out and buy some, and actually I'm better off using some of that stash actually with some purpose for a change, rather than just getting it out of the drawer to look at it every so often and putting it away. Oh, I love my beads. So actually making use of it. So yeah, I made some stitch markers. I made about 10 and they're all slightly different colour, and they're just little glass beads on the end of a metal wire which I've attached to a metal ring. This is actually the end of a bracelet clasp, so there's no sort of snagging, there's no sort of raw ends that would give me snagging on my knitting. So I've actually been using them throughout this whole pattern and they've been working quite nicely, so enjoying that, enjoying working on this, and hopefully by next time I will have that finished to show you. So that's that. And then that's pretty much it for personal projects. I think the only other thing that I've been working on that's probably quite nice to show you is some of the gifts that I will have at the Devon County show, which I'll talk to you again about in a minute. And these don't look like very much at the moment, but they're actually going to be needle felted gardens, and they're going to be little pots that I'm going to have dotted around the stall. Here you can see just the beginnings of one, and I will embed flowers into that to make it, a little pot garden with a little water feature. And I've got several of those on the go. I've got one there, I've got another one the same size, got 2 flower ones that I've started, and another little pot plant there that is yet to grow. And I thought, because sometimes I do get asked when I'm doing demos if I'll sell the things on, and normally I say no, because what I'm working on is the one thing of anything that I'm making, and I usually like to keep that if I'm going to show the same technique or idea at another show. And so what I thought this year is that I might work on something at the show, but I will have several dotted around the stall that could also be for sale as well. So they're all sort of work in progress, nothing fully finished yet. But yeah, something I can pick up in the evenings in front of the TV, which is quite nice. So I think that's it for projects. I have some purchases, and looking around at my table, I've rather stupidly left them in the other room, so in memento, I shall be back. I am back. Did you miss me? Me pulling my funny faces because I couldn't find the off switch button on my video camera. Okay, so purchases got. I also brought in my needle case. I can't remember whether I showed you it finished, so here it is. My first crochet project this was. I've lined it just with some craft felt, and those holes, yes, I managed to find a filler. I just made several circles and slight flower patterns as well, just as a bit of decoration. No, it's not the sexiest thing you've ever seen in the world, but do you know what? It just holds my needles, and that's fine. And I seem to be saying that a lot lately, and I'm not normally like that with my crafts. I'll just put that down. I'm normally a bit more, I'm going to rip this back until it looks perfect. But I kind of thought certainly with the crochet, it being my first project, and including the crochet slippers as well, that actually, I wanted to have something finished that maybe had some mistakes on, so that I could look back at it and say, okay, I've learnt from that and I'm not going to make that same mistake again. So, purchases. I'm going to start with some yarn. Stash enhancement. Bought from the lovely Yarn Hollow, so that's the tag. This is colour. I bought 2 skeins in her Etsy shop on the she had some items for sale, and these are both the same colourway. They are called Galaxy, and they are 100% merino superwash 2-ply, the yarn base called Bitty, and they are 490 yards each, and which is about 4 ounces. She recommends a needle about sock weight in terms of needle size, and I think I might make a shawlette from them, hopefully a bit of a longer shawl. I just love the colours, and I actually love the fact that even though they were dyed at the same time, that there is a slight difference rather in colour. So in this one you can see more of the blues coming through, and this one's much more of a red purple. And that I don't mind. I could use that in a couple of ways. I could either, because what I would normally do with hand dyes that don't particularly match, I mean I tend to be a bit more anal about my own hand dyeing, but I think if I buy hand dyed, you know, I always accept the fact that there are going to be differences from skein to skein, and there are. It depends on which technique you're using to dye them in, and it depends on the batch of yarn or the batch of fibre that you're using. Sometimes the slightest change between yarn to yarn, even if they're spun at the same weight, can make an effect in your dyeing. And so I don't mind that they're different. As I say, what I would normally do when I'm knitting these up is I would either knit one row from one skein and the second row from the second skein, and go on so like that, so that across the whole of the shawl or whatever it is that you're making, the variance in colour is very minimal, that you wouldn't really notice it. You would think the blue only appears in certain lines because that's how the yarn was dyed. You wouldn't necessarily notice that one yarn was a slightly different colour, if you like. So I could do that, or I could play on the fact that they're different, and maybe if I was doing a shawl, maybe half of the shawl is one colour and half from the next yarn, or I could, you know, do the top as one, bottom as the other. I could play with it in some way. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ball those up and see how they look as I'm balling them up, to see how much of the blue I've got on that skein, whether I really have as much as I can see, or whether it's, you know, all stretched out. It doesn't look quite so much on there. And this, I mean, this does have little flecks of blue on there, but whether the red appears, you know, a lot more on this one than it does on this one, because sometimes the way that a skein is wound up can make it appear to be more different than it is sometimes. And I don't know whether you can see those gorgeous colours, but they're real sort of, the red takes on a real sort of purpley hue, and then it goes into this sort of deep turquoise, and it's just gorgeous, just gorgeous. Just want to stroke it. So yes, that's Gorgeousness from Yarn Hollow in her sale, and of course I couldn't just buy one thing. No. I bought two, and this is gorgeous. It's 500 yards, which is about 457 metres, and this is 8 ounces of Gorgeousness in the yarn base brocade, which is 60% merino and 40% silk. And this colourway is just gorgeous, and it called to me. It just called to me, and I had to take it home. I just had to. And it's made Darren laugh, because he looks at my purchases, and if he's not rolling his eyes at, oh my god, she's stash enhanced again, then he normally comments on the colour, or you know, or something. But this made him really laugh, because the colourway name is called Devil's Daughter. and he said, oh, you've bought your namesake yarn. Thanks, Darren. Thanks. But yeah, isn't it gorgeous? It's just a real sort of rainbow in the kind of most gorgeous sort of shiny merino loveliness, and I'm so looking forward to knitting that up. I don't yet know what I'm going to do. I mean, I might crochet with it, but I think, I don't know. I know that crochet uses so much more yarn that I'm worried that I will lose the delicate nature of some of these colours that are just sort of appear randomly across the yarn, and I don't really want to do that, so I probably would look for a knit project for that. It's lovely, lovely. So thank you, Yarn Hollow. They came really quickly, really pleased. And I was just super happy that I picked something up so gorgeous in your sale. I was quite surprised that there was anything left, to be honest. So yeah, get onto Etsy. She might have a couple of things left in her sale, and that's her shop name is Yarn Hollow. So that's that. And I purchased another book. I had this on pre-order for quite a while on Amazon, so I'm really pleased that it's arrived this month. And it's called Hand Spun, New Spins on Traditional Technique, and it's by Lexi Boager, and I hope I haven't said that wrong. Boager? Probably said that really wrong. Sorry. And it's, I don't know whether you remember her previous book, Intertwined, where she had lots of crazy yarns, crazy art yarns. This is more looking at different sort of techniques, and a bit like the book I showed you last month. It's just a book full of inspiration, really. And you've got some crazy yarns in here. Like, for example, these add-ins with chains. Now, I personally wouldn't create a yarn like that, but the concept of adding in things that you wouldn't normally have, either in your hand spun or in a yarn that you want to use as knitting up, is actually quite interesting to me, and it's a different way of being able to use texture. I mean, look, a new take on thick and thins. Isn't that fantastic? Just a great way of adding in colour and texture into your yarn without a great deal of sort of thought processing. I mean, don't get me wrong, these are going to take a long time to master in a way that I find adorable as a finished yarn. But I mean thought process in that I'm not worried that I'm going to take a pinch of this and a pinch of that. You know, I'm going to chuck it all in. I'm going to chuck it all in and just hope that I come out with something that I like. And if I don't like it, then the beauty of this is that, you know, you can create more add-ins, or you can ply with different things, and you know, you could core spin again on top of it, or auto wrap on top of it, and you know, so you can start off with something that you maybe, that's okay, and then end up with something that's just stunning. I mean, obviously you won't get a great deal of yardage from a small amount of wool. The stuff in this book is going to take a lot of yarn, a lot of wool to make the yarn, rather. But it's just quite nice to see really sort of different techniques and way of creating those really unusual yarns. So yeah, looking forward to having a play with that. And she also shows you things like how to make use of fleeces in a different way to create scarves. So not necessarily making yarn, but just putting fleece in the washing machine to create a scarf. And you can do that from maybe the parts of the fleece that you wouldn't save as best for spinning, but they would felt up lovely. So there are different projects like that in the book as well, which are quite interesting. I will do a review of this on my How to Make site, and I will put, going across the bottom here, a link to the How to Make site, because the book I showed you last month, the review for that, will shortly be up on the site after I've finished my hand carding series. So that's to look out for. What else have I got to show you? Well, I think that's it for purchases and projects. The next thing to sort of talk to you about is the Devon County show. Now, last month I spoke to you. At that point in time I didn't have a huge amount on the books in terms of shows that I had actually booked in. But the Devon County show, in the meantime, has come back to me, and they have accepted my application, and I'm absolutely thrilled, because that's it's a really big annual event here in Devon, and sorry, excuse me. I think there still are quite a few of the county shows that go on up and down the country, And they happen in other countries as well. For example, I've seen, you know, sheep and wool shows happen in like Rhinebeck, and things that go on in America. And this is kind of the same. The basis of the Devon County show, which I think I talked about in my audio podcast, probably episode like 4 or 5, something like that. The premise of the show essentially is that it's an agricultural show, and it's a place where farmers go to show their cattle and their livestock, to win prizes in the county for their quality of breeding and you know, their sort of other skills and in traditional crafts that go alongside that. So, for example, there'll be some ironmongery going on, which is mostly entered by the farriers who shoe the horses that go to the show. There are also beekeepers there, and they have competitions for the best honey and things like that. You know, you can go and buy a tractor if you want to buy a tractor, or you can use it as a family day out, which I think in more recent years is much more about what the show has become. It's much less focused on, you know, sort of annual livestock events within the county, but more about encompassing the whole community as such. So it's more about a day out for the whole family. So there are lots of things to see and do. One of those things is to come into the West Country Craft Marquee, where you will find me. And as I say, I will be needle felting, and I will be probably spindle spinning if I'm not needle felting. And I will have a display of select items. I'll mostly be picking beginner kits and sort of basic pieces of equipment and wools and things, just purely because I normally do purely wool focused shows, and when I'm doing those, 100% of the customer who comes in is either a spinner or a felt maker or a knitter, and so I've got something to sell to each of those. But here I'm going to get everybody coming. You know, you've got the farmer, his wife, their children, and so on, and Joe Bloggs down the road. And so they're not always necessarily interested in crafts as maybe the focus of the main customer who comes to the normal types of shows that I do. So I want to have some things that, you know, relate to a broad spectrum of people, but don't make my stall look so niche that it's kind of unapproachable by the layman. So, as I say, I've been working on a number of things, and behind me you will see what I've been working on already. I've been hand spinning yarns. I've got quite a selection here. That's merino and silk that I'm playing with there. It's very soft, very soft. We've got some merino silk, which has been plied with some lovely sparkly lurex. I don't know if you can see this one. Let me pull that off. Got a lovely chunky 2-ply merino that's made from one of my blends, and I'll put that on my finger so you can see there. Thick and thins. The idea of it is it's supposed to be just a nice textured piece. I haven't measured it, so I'm not sure exactly how much you've got in terms of yardage, but I tried to aim for about 100 grams, so we'll see when I measure those out. But yeah, I mean, it's quite nice to either use this as trimming if you haven't got enough for, say, a whole hat, or you know, if I can manage to get 2 out of the same, then I will try. I think there is 2 of this one. So I've been working on a number of those. Most of my yarns are singles, but I am trying where I get time to get as many plied out as possible. It's a bit difficult at this time of the year where I'm starting right from scratch almost, because normally at the end of a year I'll have some left over that I can already put in the box to go to shows for the next year, and because of what happened at the end of last year and being closed for such a long time over Christmas, I didn't get as much winter spinning as I would normally have done. So I'm a bit behind and sort of starting from scratch. So there will be as much as I can possibly do on the stall. So lots for knitters. Also there's going to be some fibre as well. Hold on a moment, if I can reach it. Yeah. So I've been making braids. Normally, if you've bought from me previously, all of your hand dyeds will come in sort of bumps of fibre, and that's because it's the easiest and quickest way for me to process and package things up. But this year I've got a little bit more time for the Devon counties, and what I thought might be quite interesting is to braid them. I'm also playing with my layout of stalls, so I'm hoping that by braiding the fibres that I will get maybe a bit more room on the stall, or if I've got hanging space on the side, then I'll be able to cover the walls with colour, which would be absolutely fantastic, because that's really, I think, what pulls people in is colour. So this is going to be called Raspberry Chocolate, and it's a new colourway. So it's not on the website at the moment. And what I hope as well to do by showing it to you in a braid is to give you an idea of possibly how it would spin up. These are going to give you a marl effect. You might have, depending on how you spin it, you might be able to draw from each colour, or you might be able to pull a long section of one colour out. So I've mostly been working on Blueface Leicester at the moment, which is lovely and squishy, but I'm also working on some other things. I'm working on some merino tencel, some merino, sorry, that's hanging from next to, I think they've got workmen in, and sorry, what was I saying? Oh, some Jacob as well. So there will hopefully be different textures as well as lots of different bright colours and things. So that's that. What else have I got behind me? I've got a few hand-dyed yarns, but I've not got enough at the moment to show you, so I'll probably show you a bit more next month when I've got the next batch done. It's very much a work in progress at the moment, and they're all new things that haven't been seen on the website before, so if you come to the Devon County show, do come and look me up, because you will be buying the first batches of lots of new colourways. I think that's it for Devon County show, so let's move on to the shop update. If you've been following me, you'll notice that I've been updating the website www.sarastexturecraft.com twice a month, and I've started to do this on a much more regular basis, and I'm hoping to go forward that will be set in stone, as it were. I mean, I may have to play with dates here and there, but information on those dates will be on the website under my events page, and also in the news section. I always, when I launch an update, I will give you the date for the next update as well, so it's always worth noting those down and popping over to the site when you get the chance next. So I will show you some things that have just gone on in the past update, and I will show you some things that will go on in the next update. The last update was March the 2nd, and mostly for that I was concerned with the some new blends, and the Fleece Club, and wool samples, and trimmings and things for knitting. So I guess I should probably talk to you about the Fleece Club first of all. If you haven't joined the Fleece Club and you don't know what it is, you didn't catch my last episode, then here is a brief breakdown. Fleece Club. Subscriptions are now open on the website, and they are a 3-month subscription. You pay everything you need to pay in one payment up front. The deliveries will start in July. They will continue with the second one in August and the third and final one in September. Each of those subscription months will receive 50 grams of 3 different fleeces. These will be raw fleeces, and I will give you instructions, basic instructions within the first package on how to wash and process fleece as a general rule of thumb, and I will also, in all of the 3 packages, I will give you specifics, if there are any specific instructions for each of the fleeces enclosed in said package. UK price for the 3-month subscription is, off the top of my head, £12, and yeah, that covers your postage and packaging and all 3 months of subscriptions. That's all for one price. If you're in Europe, it's £14.50, and in the rest of the world, forgive me, I might get this wrong, but I think it's £17.50. So that's £12, £14.50 and £17.50, and they cover basically everything you need for your 3-month subscription. I did post a teaser on my blog showing you that Gotland would be in the would be in the package somewhere in one of your subscription packages, and I went to the farm and I hand selected the fleece for us, as well as purchasing lots of other fleece that you can buy on the website, and that I'm also going to be dyeing up for the website. So I think that pleased quite a few people who have been ogling the fleeces on the website and, you know, want to get a small amount that they can play with before they dive in and buy enough to make a jumper. So yes, Scotland will be in that. It's March now. Probably won't realistically start to hear from farmers until next month about when they're planning to shear. So I'm not entirely sure what the fleeces I will have at the moment, but if you go onto the listing on the website, it gives you a kind of vague idea of the fleeces that I'm likely to be able to get hold of, and you will get a selection of the above. So that's Fleece Club. That's I still have a few spots open, so do come and join that and enjoy some new fibre, enjoy learning about different fleeces and how to work with them. Also in that update, I had some blends. So excuse me. These are merino blends. I often try to do blends as a nice way of introducing lots of colour into your spinning. It's quite a different way of spinning than spinning hand dyed. And let me see if I've got some yarn. Oh, I have. Okay. I might have to stand up for this. Okay. Right. Okay. Now this is a hand-dyed yarn, and this is a yarn spun from a blend, and you can see the way the colour appears on the two is quite different. Generally on a hand spun, although you'll get spots where the colours sort of merge together from where you go from one section on the braid to another, you generally get some quite good single colours running across your yarn. But with a blend that works differently. You'll get a lot more colour on your single in a sort of much more continuous manner across the length of your yarn. So rather than getting splashes of pink, splashes of purple, splashes of blue, you'll get one much more uniform look when you spin from this, unless you take the time to strip out the individual colours within your blend. So it's, for me, I try to have blends as well as hand dyed because I think it gives you a different effect in your spinning or even your felt making. So here are a couple of those blends that I've got on the site. Now I'm hoping that the light isn't going to bleach out those colours because it's just come out sunny. So we've got Boysenberry here, which is a lovely sort of pinky purple colourway. I've what have I used in that? Fuchsia, purple and plum, I think, from my solid merino colours. So what you could do is create something like this by using the blend paired with a solid colour yarn. And with this colour it's a mixture. This is Emperor without silk, and this has got like a navy, a cobalt and think that's deep jade or pine. And so yeah, different effects for your spinning. I also do these in silk, and you'll notice I had some new colours in silk on the website as well. So if you're interested, they are up on the website now. Lovely and soft too. Okay, so that was the last update, which is already on the site. There's still some left. Some of those are going really quickly, so if you have if you're eyeing up anything from that last update, then rush over and get it now, because it might be gone before you know. And what happens with my blends particularly is most of them are, I call them limited edition, but they really are sort of special editions. They will run for an amount of time. I could repeat them, but I might not repeat them for any longer than, say, a year or a season even, depending on sales, but also depending on what else I'm doing and what else I've got coming up. So they go quickly, so make sure, or try and make sure that you buy enough for the projects that you need at one time, because I might not be able to repeat that colourway when you come back. But that's much more repeatable than, say, hand dyed. So contact me if you come onto the site and you want 500 grams and there's only 400 grams left, because I'm happy, if I can, to get some more made up for you. The next shop update will be the 23rd of March, and sorry, excuse me, I think that might actually be a week later than my normal 2 weeks apart plan. Couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I think that is possibly a week later. Might not be. Anyway, the reason really is that next week I have, well, the shop will be closing for a week. I'm not going anywhere personally, but we are going to have builders in, and they're going to be doing quite a lot of constructional work within the house. So my stock room is going to be sealed. I cannot have any dust and debris getting into that room. I'm very fussy about how I store my fibre and my yarns, and particularly, the stuff that I've just hand dyed or just hand spun. I want to make sure that it is stored correctly so that it's perfect when it gets to you. But also, I've invested so much time and energy in this, I don't want it ruined. I really don't. So, 23rd of March, you will see pin roving. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what pin roving is, it's essentially very fine roving. Now, you can see that, you can see how fine that is. It's already been pre-drafted at a yarn mill. Sorry, that's next door again. It's already been processed at a yarn mill, so it's ready just to have the twist set into it. And these are perfect for felt making. I spun one up, and you'll find this on my Ravelry page actually. I spun one up last year, I think it was, and the gradients, you get such a long gradient of red before you get to the green and the purple and so on, that it makes a really, really long length of yarn. And I actually two-plied mine, so I plied it back on against itself, and you could, if you wanted to, you could be concerned about Navajo plying. I think if you do that, you might find, which you tend to find with Navajo plying as a whole, that you might have a small amount of single left on the bobbin from one half as opposed to the other. So you would have to, if you're going to do that, I would suggest lying it out and making sure that you are separating your half perfectly in the middle so that you can line up perfectly again. They really don't need much work. All they need is twists set into them. So it's an easy yarn to spin, and they're very reasonably priced. And I've got lots of different colourways, that's one. These sold really quite well at the shows last year, because it was something quite a lot of the local customers that I hadn't seen before, so there aren't as many as I would like to have left for the website, but if you do like them, I might be able to get some more, so let me know. We'll see how sales go. What else do I have? Oh, I also have some yarn. Been playing with blues and pinks, as you can see, and these I have, I did some for the shows that I was at last year and they sold quite well, so I will have a few skeins in Teeswater. This is colourway teal and it's a 4-ply Teeswater yarn. You get 300 metres for your 100 grams. As you can see, it's a semi-solid really, so you get patches of darker against patches of light. And what's great about the Teeswater is it's because it's such a long wool, you get this really great lustre to it, so that's lovely. I shall have 2 skeins in this colourway and I shall have 2 skeins in the fuchsia colourway. So that's that. This is fuchsia in Exmoor Blueface. This is Exmoor Horn crossbred with Blueface Leicester. You get 200 metres for your 100 grams, and again this is semi-solid colours. I have fuchsia and teal. I dyed those up quickly this week because they were the last of those yarns that I have. So I've priced those to reflect that, like end of line. I may reinvest and purchase some more of those bases depending on how these do and how other things go as well. So this is lovely and soft and it does have a halo to it, so it might be better rather than next to the skin, and the same actually with Teeswater, rather than next to the skin as maybe as more of shawlettes. And there are 2 skeins of each, so you could do a longer shawl. So those are those. And the final yarn I have is this one, which is Colour Harmony. It's a chunky yarn. You get 100 metres for 100 grams. It's 96% Blueface Leicester and 4% cotton, and the 4% is the plied cotton yarn that is on your on your Blueface Leicester. It's a thick and thin. I knitted up a cowl from this, which I'm yet to put on Ravelry. I would like to write a pattern for that. I had a different colourway, which I'm going to dye up some more of that because it sold really well at the shows. But as you can see, this is a lovely mixture of blues and pinks that go into purples, and it's a lovely warming yarn that makes great cowls. So there will be, I think, 4 skeins of that. Because these are kettle dyed, you do get variation in colour and saturation from skein to skein. So if you want to, I will try and match 2 that work together. Or if there are any contrasting left, I will contact, and I say contrasting, they'll be the same colours, but one might be darker, more saturated than the other. If that happens, I'll let you know and we'll go from there. But essentially what you would do when you're knitting it up is knit 1 row from one skein, 1 row from the second skein, and that way across the length of your project you will get something that looks very similar from end to end as opposed to light to dark. Unless you wanted light to dark. So there will be that. I also have been hand dyeing some fleecy bits, as I said, and excuse the crackling of plastic bags. I don't normally store my stuff in plastic bags, but I've brought them down in plastic just so I've got them to show you. Sorry, excuse me. This is scoured merino fleece, and I have hand dyed this so that it is ideal for carding. You can make, I made some beautiful bats, really soft spongy bats with these last year that sold really well at the shows, and I thought I would do the same again this year. And I actually had some people who have asked me to let them know when this is up in the shop if I'm going to sell this, because they would like to buy it to create their own bats. Now it comes in sort of segments of fleece, and if, I don't know whether you sort of know a bit how fleece is processed at yarn mills, but essentially when the fleece comes in, they're washed, they're sorted, and then they go on to a large sort of carding machine, and this fluffs them up and gets rid of the majority of the dirt, but it will come out the other end in this sort of fluff oddments, if you like. And what happens is then this will then be taken to a machine that will draft it, comb it and process it until it gets to a point where it can become a roving, and then once it's carded again and the fibres are much more aligned, it will become a top, and so on until they get to the yarn process. So this really is ideal if you've got hand carders or a drum carder and you want to, I mean, I suppose you could use it as texture. There's no reason why you couldn't core spin this onto yarn if you wanted to do some art yarn. But really it's more for that if you're looking at spinning it. And you'll get the colours varying, and you'll basically create your own colour blend, if you like. It won't look quite like a manufactured blend, but you'll get elements of this purple coming against the stone, coming against the turquoise, which can be really quite lovely. So you'll get like a sort of tweedy effect, I think, on your finished yarn. Alternatively, you could use this as it is to create texture in felt making. So you'll have that in the shop. That will be quite reasonably priced because it's not been sort of fully processed into a bat or anything like that. But yeah, I don't have much of it, as you see, and I'll probably sell it in 50-gram lots, so I can always dye up some more. That colourway is called Precious Rock, and as I say, it's a mixture of blues, sort of plummy colour, and like a stone sort of colour. So that will be in the shop on the 23rd. I have, talking of fleece, I've been dyeing up some Blueface Leicester. Blueface Leicester in its fleecy form is just so curly. It's just gorgeous. And this is colourway Sea Green. It's a teal mixed with like a sort of emeraldy green colour. And what I love about this is it almost looks like mermaid hair. It's just really tight, gorgeous curls. Now again, this can be processed on your carder if you're looking to spin. You could also use it to create tailspin yarns. There would be shorter tailspin curls than you would have on, say, like Teeswater, but you could get some really nice effects with that. So I'm all for encouraging the art yarn, so that's a very good use. You could also use it for fringing on nano-felted scarves. You could use it needle felting for hair, for little figurines that you make, and yeah, it's just lovely, lovely and soft. That's why we love Blueface Leicester. I just love working with fleece, because you know, every single curl is different, it takes up the colour differently, and it's just such a pleasure to work with it at this stage before you even think about what it's going to be as either a finished yarn or a felted piece. So there'll be lots of that in the shop. And I have got some more fleece, so, and I can always get some more fleece because we're coming up to shearing time, so if there's not enough, there can be more. I'm also going to have a bit of Teeswater. This is like my final amount of Teeswater left in the world until they shear again. The farmers that I work with shear in June, at the end of June, so the chances are realistically by the time they have prepped the fleeces at their end, because they do like to do a little bit of prep pre-sending it out to me, it probably won't be in the store until the end of July. So I don't know whether Teeswater will be enclosed in the Fleece Club packages, but if I can't enclose that, then you'll either get BFL or Wensleydale, and of course you'll have the Gotland, so you will have curly to some extent. But yeah, there are limited amounts of this, and I've pre-bagged this because I wanted to wait out, because there's really not much of anything left, and these are in existing colourways. So that's Sunrise and that is Ginger Snap. If I can get hold of any more from anywhere, I will, and that will be dyed up in probably a myriad of other colourways and will be in the shop, but I will let you know when those go up, either in my newsletter if you're subscribed on the website, or if you come onto the main website and check out the news section. I generally tend to have a bit of a heads up on what might appear in the next update. So that's those. Then I've been dyeing up some silky bits as well, so these are silk carrier rods, and you'll get these in a few different colourway options. This is sea green, which again you've seen in the BFL, and these are lovely. They are great for, I mean, you could use them as additions onto yarn. The one thing I would say about that is that whenever you're using silk cocoons or silk rods and you're using them as decoration, because they absorb so much dye, no matter how much synthropol, which is the agent I use to release excess dye that's sitting on the surface of things, and how much rinsing I do, and I really do rinse and rinse and rinse, there will be colour that releases itself from this. So I do ask people to consider that when they're using them. And most people I generally sell to tend to use these for making jewellery or for some kind of textured embellishment on a textile piece of work, whether it be felt or fabric based. And so that really isn't a problem. But if you are thinking of using them in yarn bases, then think about using it on something that you're not going to end up washing on a regular basis, or something that is maybe darker, so that if the colour bleeds from this, it's not going to ruin a lovely white yarn it might be on. So as you can see, they take up the colour quite differently, and there will be sort of spots of very deep saturation and hardly any saturation at all. So they're really, really nice, quite textural, and they're quite sort of stiff, so whilst they might not bend to a particular purpose, they do really take on these sort of curious forms that could be quite interesting to stitch into for textile definition and that kind of thing. So they will be on the site. I have this colourway and I think one or two other colourways, so check those out. And I think actually that's it for today. Oh, one thing I did forget to show you, which I should show you, is, I should just reach across the table, is I've created a wool sampling pack. This comprises of 10 grams of British wool tops that I supply in the shop. Up until now, the sampling packs I've done have mostly been silk or exotic fibres or plant fibres, and I thought it might be quite nice to have wool-based fibres. I'm aiming these particularly at the student or somebody who wants to just, you know, find a new fibre to play with in their yarn making. And it's just enough, 10 grams is just enough to either spindle spin a small amount or felt a small swatch for coarse work, that kind of thing. So yes, those are in the shop, do check them out. I think this pack is £4.50, but do check out the website because I could be slightly wrong on that price. But yeah, I have those, and I will be able to make those up to order depending on the stock of the tops I have at that point in time. So that's that. So yeah, as I say, that's it for my Dreaming in Fibre podcast this week. So what have you been up to? I hope you've enjoyed February and you enjoyed your craft making, and like me, you're feeling that things are getting slightly warmer at last. Let me know. Contact me via the show notes page, which is dreaminginfibre.blogspot.com. Join us in the Ravelry group, which is Sara's Texture Crafts. I think if you search for Dreaming in Fibre on Ravelry, you may also come across the group. So do come and check me out. There's only a few of us. I think there's only about 58 of us at the moment, but the more there are of us and the more of you who choose to, you know, just start up a random thread here and there, show us what you're working on, the more fun it becomes. So do come and join in those. And again, if you need to speak to me directly, ask me any questions or ask me where you can get this, that or the other, then contact me via the website at sarastexturecrafts.com. Okay, so until next time, I hope, like me, you'll enjoy dreaming in fibre. Goodbye.